one of my precious memories of Sean Connery was of him watching and being involved in the genius of the world created by Federici Cantor. He can be seen in my mind and in a photograph I took, in a number of photographs I took, of him as a member of the audience in the Demarco Gallery's poorhouse. He's watching one of the performances of Federici Cantor's Quico 2 Theatre entitled Lovelies and Dowdies. And he is, round his neck is a great piece of cloth which links him with his fellow Edinburgh Arts participants, because it's all under the aegis of something I call Edinburgh Arts, which is an experimental art school. And he's sitting beside Tina Brown, and she's also there at this extraordinary work of genius with Oberon Walk, the son of Evelyn Walk. So this is part of my life. And therefore, there's no mention of this, of course, in all the recent statements about the life of Sean. It's a kind of mystery that I have got to let the world know about, because it was Sean Connery under the aegis of something which he created called the Scottish International Education Trust, which he formed as a result of him being paid $1 million American for his part in the film Diamonds Are Forever. And he created this in order to have the young people of Scotland remain in Scotland, have a future for themselves in Scotland. He didn't want young people to leave Scotland, because in a way he knew what it was to leave Scotland. The world of Hollywood, international filmmaking, had him in its grasp. And obviously it did include the world that had produced him in Scotland, the world of the Edinburgh of the 40s and 50s. I mean, his death had special significance for me because he was born a month and a half after me in the year 1930. His life and my life represent a certain period in which Edinburgh suffered from the war, and then the post-war period when there was no hope for anybody living in Edinburgh, a period of rationing of food and clothes and electric light, heating. And I remember as a child playing football with him, kicking a ball around in the playground of a school in Portobello called Tower Bank School. And then a few years later, I have clear memories of him as a lifeguard, looking quite splendid in the world of Portobello's magnificent outdoor bathing pool, which must have been a masterpiece of Art Deco architecture. How on earth could it have been demolished? Oh God, how on earth could that have happened in my lifetime? What kind of idiotic way of thinking could have destroyed something so extraordinary that didn't exist anywhere else in the world. I can actually say that I am responsible, as a friend of Sean Connery, getting to know him as my model at Edinburgh College of Art, saying, you know, I draw you, I paint you, but I can see how hard it is to stand still as a model for such a long period of time. But I've got a friend who has been standing still for a very short period of time and getting paid more or less twice or thrice the amount of money you get from being a model. My friend is my school friend with a remarkable name, Eugene MacFadjan. He's over 6 feet tall, and you're over 6 feet tall. And apparently he got the job because he answered an advert for 6 young men over 6 feet tall living in Edinburgh during the run of the production of a musical in the King's Theatre. And all they had to do was dress up as guardsmen with busbies and looking beautiful, without speaking a word, just standing there. And I thought, you'd be a complete dead ringer for that. So why don't you apply? He applied. And that was the beginning of his career, because he was part of a very successful musical long before he appeared in the musical South Pacific. And it was called 60 Glorious Years. And it was starring a superstar of that time, Anna Nagel. It was a celebration of the reign of Queen Victoria. I remember writing in my diary, a little red diary, I've got to find it. And I said, Tommy Connery has left Edinburgh, and I think it will be for good. Because I couldn't see him returning to be a life model at the Edinburgh College of Art, or someone preparing coffins, polishing coffins, or as a delivering milk, or as a bouncer in the Empire Theatre. Because I knew he was happy standing there, dressed on the stage with the whole atmosphere of theatre. So I knew that things were going well for him. I'll never forget how I introduced him to the world of the Royal Scottish Academy, the National Galleries, and all sorts of productions. And from then, it was simply natural that he should be involved in setting up what he called the Scottish International Education Trust. And believe it or not, in 1972, when it was formed, he invited me to be the first director of this trust. And that helped it become possible to be seriously engaged in presenting Cantor. And it was right and fitting, therefore, that Sean should participate in a Cantor. Can you imagine? Cantor and Boyce together. Cantor and Cantor and Tom Connery together. That's even more amazing. And Cantor and the world of Tina Brown. Sean Connery and the world of Tina Brown. Well, this is an area far removed from the world of golf, which seduced Sean in spending a great deal of his time and energy. It was a different world. There are so many memories, so many, all jumbled up in my head. I'll never forget the moment when he came to my house on the top floor of 29 Frederick Street, and together with Cordelia Oliver, we watched him perform on a film which was live at the time. And as we looked at it, at the end of it, I said, "What was your favourite performance?" And his answer was the film in which I had the pleasure of working with Audrey Hepburn. Obviously, his death has quite knocked me back, because here am I, 90 years of age, and managing somehow not to suffer the way he suffered in the last few years of his life from dementia and the other ailments he suffered from. I feel terrifying responsibility about how I deal with him. He is very much a part of the Demarco Archive. And I knew him as Tommy. He was Tommy Connery, the most beautiful life model ever seen at Edinburgh College of Art. I'm so glad I managed to make a painting of him.